As global climate change unfolds, its effects are being felt disproportionately in the world's poorest countries and among the groups of people least able to cope. Many of the countries hardest hit by the effects of climate change also face rapid population growth, with their populations on track to double by 2050. Adapting to climate change entails a variety of responses, including policies to improve management of climate change risks by enhancing adaptive capacity while easing pressure on resources. Journalists Association Against AIDS, JournAIDS, organized a symposium on climate change with support from Pupolation Action International, a US-based organization which uses research, advocacy, communication to explain the critical relationships between population, reproductive health, gender and climate change, and how climate change affects population. Center stage during the symposium was the issue of government response to climate change, and more especially the policy front.
Government is currently doing several things. Right now, the government is moving towards coming up with a policy in climate change, but also it has in place what is called NAPA, or National Adaptation Program of Action, and that directs organizations and even government institutions to come up with projects that can help in adaptation in climate change.
Some members of the civil society are of the opinion that the NAPA document is not encompassing. What do you say?
Actually, there are several things that people are talking about NAPA. First of all, it's availability and awareness. Although it was launched in 2008 by the state president, it seems like not many people are aware of what NAPA is, the issue of gender issues. We know when there's climate change, it affects men and women differently. But NAPA looks at climate change as if the effects are gender neutral, which are not. I'll give you an example. Climate change would affect the availability of such things as water, and who collects water? It's the women. It affects such things as environmental issues such as firewood. Who gets to collect firewood? It's the women. So it creates burden on women more than men. So that has not been clearly addressed. But also the population issues. Although NAP on its own, it admits that population causes is one of the causes of climate change. But there are no interventions that are aimed at reducing climate change. So those are some of the issues that are missing in the NAPA itself.
A Deputy Director of Environmental Affairs has his own take.
Well, actually, the National Adaptation Programs of Action was made with specific terms of reference. So currently, in its current form, it does not address all issues of climate change, because it's only programs of climate change that require adaptation. But there are other issues that require mitigation, technology development and transfer, capacity building, those matters. So, in trying to accommodate the emerging issues, we are treating these are emerging issues. The NAPA is being reviewed. As I'm talking now, it's being reviewed to ensure that these issues are incorporated.
But what does government say on the policy front?
At the policy level, we do not have actually a specific policy targeting climate change. But however, we do have specific pieces that we use. Like if you go to like a national environmental policy, there are some aspects of climate change there. If you go to disaster management, there are some aspects. But what is needed is to have a comprehensive policy, which government is considering, is putting our pieces to ensure that as a country we should have one single piece that is addressing holistically the matters concerning climate change.
So how far has this policy formulation process gone?
No, I think we're in the preliminary stages whereby we have been gathering information and consulting various stakeholders to determine the scope, nature and the scope of what that policy should be, and also to guide the country in terms of where investments need to be and which communities need to be addressed in specific terms, but also in general.
The international community can only supplement local effort. How does Pupolation Action International view Malawi's government response?
I think it's very important for Malawi to respond to climate change because it is one of the countries that is most vulnerable. The analysis that we have conducted has demonstrated that Malawi is one of the countries where there's great vulnerability, there's decreased agricultural productivity, and there's a high population growth. And I think the government has taken a good first step in being involved in international negotiations and having a national action program, adaptation program that they have put forward. So I think the government has shown that it's committed and is interested, and it should continue working with civil society to continue to refine its program of action.
But does that mean we are on track?
I think it's a good start. I am quite pleased to see that the document recognizes the role of women and the extra vulnerability that women place, particularly in the context of the demographic impact of HIV/AIDS and the impact that it's having on households. So it's a very good start. I'm not sure what the criticisms are that have been aired locally, but you can always criticize documents. I think for anyone who's looking at the NAPA document critically, it's important for that person to have an appreciation of the context in which those plans or programs were developed.
I just wanted to find out from you, how do you see your working relationship with JournAIDS Association Against AIDS?
I'm very impressed that the JournAIDS Association has such a strong membership. It has more than 70 members with a strong presence throughout the country, so that's a very unique opportunity, and I'm glad to learn that it takes on issues above and beyond just a limited focus on AIDS, that it's also looking on issues like climate change. So I'm excited to be here. I'm thrilled to have had such a warm welcome. I think there are lots of opportunities to work together and for me to learn from their partners and their members, and I look forward to coming back.
From your experience during the visit to the field and the symposium undertaken, have you discovered any emerging issues?
I was a little bit surprised, and I hadn't thought about the fact that in the local language there is not a term or phrase to say climate change, and that it can be interpreted as weather or change over time. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. I haven't heard that before, and it does present interesting challenges for us as we think about how we engage local communities and how we communicate about climate change, because we want to do so in a meaningful way that the population understands, particularly if a lot of that population is not able to read. So if we have to reach them electronically and in the local language, we want to find ways to communicate clearly and effectively. And I think that the JournAIDS Association is perfectly positioned to do that kind of work.
The coming in of Pupolation Action International, does it bring in more capacity building for journalists?
I don't know yet. It depends on what JournAIDS say is most important for them. We have not had those discussions as yet. I think it's clear that there is a need for some capacity building. So we have to talk a little bit about what are the most urgent needs and how that capacity building can be done in a sustainable way so that the skills that are developed are ones that will be used.